So, Marco, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. I know that what you have to say will be of great interest and value to the people who are going to be watching it. I thought I would start by just asking you to tell me about your role, the one that you have today, and how your career led you to this point.
Sure. Thanks, Peter, for having me on. So I'm the Vice President of Planning and Improvement with Mosaic Forest Management. Mosaic is Canada's largest private timberlands management company. We operate on the coast of BC, and we serve customers in North America and Asia. Mosaic manages the forest on behalf of our investors, which are some of Canada's largest pension funds. I started my career as a systems engineer, graduated from SFU, and worked in research and development for about a decade before going back to school to do my MBA. And after the MBA, I spent some time in management consulting, which led me to Mosaic and ultimately my current role here.
An interesting path, and it seems like an appropriate one for the role that you have today. You've been working on an exciting digital transformation project in forestry. Can you tell me about that project and the benefits that it's going to bring?
Yeah, sure. We're working on a project that we're calling Forest Machine Connectivity. And basically this project is, it's being done in collaboration with several other industry partners and organizations. And at a high level, it aims to develop an Internet of Things platform for forestry equipment. These are the machines that are working at the front end of our harvesting supply chain. And what we're essentially looking to do here is to collect data about machine location and utilization by way of having GPS antenna and transmitting that via satellite or other means, and then to correlate that data with site-specific factors. As you can imagine, the forest is not a controlled environment, so you have every location in the forest is a little bit different. You have size of trees varies. You have slope of the hill that the machines are working on varies. So we want to correlate the productivity of the machinery to these environmental factors, and then be able to go back and benchmark, when we have a new location in the forest with its unique set of variables, what can we expect to get in terms of productivity? The other element that we want to get out of this is supply chain visibility. So today, we only process inventory when a truck shows up at one of our destinations, but we don't necessarily have a great idea of how much inventory there is in the forest at various stages of productions. And this project will give us that increased visibility into our supply chain.
Wonderful. So the technology is helping you to manage the productivity of the activity you conduct in the forest, as well as the supply chain of the forest, of the trees. Okay. So you started your career as an engineer. How would you describe how that prepared you to manage the project, and what capabilities did you need beyond your engineering knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, very very fond of my engineering education and background. I think it's been a great foundation throughout my career, and the structured and logical approach to problem solving that you get through an engineering education instills, is certainly portable to a number of other disciplines. Business management definitely being one of those. A project such as the one we're working on can really be described as a system of systems. So the ability to compartmentalize and break down the problem into manageable subsystems while defining the boundaries has been critical from a technical perspective here. But as much as engineering is a great foundation, I certainly had to learn a lot of additional skills along the way that are just as, if not more, critical in my current role and for this project in particular. So there's a number of those, but I'll just hit on the highlights here. So certainly the ability to communicate complex concept to a wide range of stakeholders in an organization is critical. It's important to recognize that not everyone is or thinks like an engineer, and you have to adapt your communication style to get through to all the people that are your stakeholders that you need to talk to when you are working on a complex project. Another skill set that certainly didn't come naturally to me as an engineer, and frankly, it still doesn't come naturally, is the ability to be comfortable with ambiguity. The reality is that real world problems are messy, and learning to deal with ambiguity is a critical skill, and you need to be able to adapt and change course, and you can't figure everything out up front. It's also really important to understand the importance of change management once you move beyond a technical role. Really, you can have the most elegant engineering solution to a problem, but if you don't have buy-in from various stakeholders across an organization, it may not translate into a successful outcome. In fact, it likely won't, and that's been probably one of the most challenging parts about various digital transformation projects I've been involved with is the change management. It's a really, really important aspect of it. And really, at the end of the day, the bottom line is that in order to succeed in the real world, beyond technical roles, and in particular with digital transformation projects, you need to be well-rounded. Includes soft skills such as communication, influencing and leading people, business knowledge, and various other sort of domain-specific knowledge. It's you really do need to be a little bit of a jack of all trades.
Absolutely. And you mentioned ambiguity. Your project has some uncertainty associated with it. The technology you'd use, the way you might apply it, perhaps the issues you'd face as the project proceeded. Could you talk about that and how you dealt with it?
Yeah, well, in our project, we really focused on defining the desired business outcomes first, getting clarity and alignment around what it is we're trying to do and why was more important than focusing on the how we're going to do it. You're always applying your technical judgment and a reasonableness filter throughout the scoping process, and at some point it becomes relatively straightforward, I guess, to develop an intuition about what's feasible and what isn't feasible. And I found that in my role, it was playing the part of translating the business needs and helping the business stakeholders understand what technology can do for them, and translating those business needs to the technical people working in the technology so that they understand sort of the intent of what we're trying to accomplish here. And that's an ongoing process, really. Another important element was putting together the right team, even though we knew that there was going to be challenges in multiple domains, software, hardware, operational issues that we didn't know how to solve up front. Really, we brought together a team that had the right skills to solve these problems, and then you just really have to have confidence that your team is going to be there to help figure out the various forks in the road that you have to take throughout a project.
Absolutely. Sorry,
Yeah, and one other point I was going to make is just the project planning had to be iterative and adaptable. We really in the software part of this project, we follow an agile approach. You basically iterate, do small chunks, and quickly decide what works and what doesn't work. It's really difficult in a project like this to sort of lay it all out and follow a waterfall approach.
Great, thank you. And in the program that this is for, we do talk about the different approaches to managing projects, of which, of course, Agile is a valuable one. So there are multiple partners involved in your project. Could you tell me about that and how this has impacted the work that you've done to manage the project?
Yeah, so this particular project is a little bit unique. It's being done as part of what an organization referred to as Canada's Digital Technology Supercluster. I'm not sure if your students would be familiar with that. But this is an organization supported by the Government of Canada. It helps fund collaborative projects with the aim of developing novel products and technologies. And the aim is really to develop Canada as, global player in some of these, specific industries or specific technologies. So by virtue of being part of this program, we had to invest a lot of time upfront, clearly defining roles and responsibilities of all the partners involved, clearly defining our working relationships, commercial interests, and all of those kinds of things upfront. It was quite an intensive, involved process, but looking back, I think it really did help to address a lot of issues that otherwise could distract from the project if they hadn't been addressed upfront. So that certainly helped, with managing the working relationships in a multi-party project. But the reality is, despite all the work up front, bringing together, teams and people from 4 different organizations, many of whom had never met or worked before, is challenging at the best of times. And we had to do it, with the added challenge of doing it during the COVID pandemic over Zoom. So that certainly makes it a challenge.
Yeah, I'm sure it made it very interesting. I can only imagine. So the project also involved, in a similar sense, combining technical specialists with operations people and the broader business functions. What is your experience of this, Ben? And what advice would you have for others who are doing this in digital transformation projects?
Yeah, this is always an important but challenging part of digital transformation projects. So you find that operations people are the subject matter experts. Usually this is being done in the context of industrial digital transformation. They're usually your main customer, whatever system you're trying to build. They are critical to the success of the project. But the challenge is that these same people are busy, and oftentimes they're participating in the project off the side of their desk, is the quote that's often used. And the advice that I'd have is to make relationships with these people and bring them on board early. Also, as technical people, we sometimes assume that everybody has a good sense of what's technically feasible or risky and what isn't. The fact is that not everybody has this experience or intuition, so it helps to come to meetings prepared, having thought through options, visuals, pros and cons, so you can walk non-technical people through the sometimes difficult choices that you have to make collectively. In our particular project, we're lucky in that the business owner or the business lead for the project is an operations individual who's really knows the operation extremely well, was involved in scoping the project from the beginning, and having a person like that lead the project and driving the design really makes it much less of a challenge to achieve that change management that we're talking about. Trying to push something on operations after the fact is almost always a losing proposition from a change management perspective.
Very important advice. So how would you describe the challenges of managing the people-related aspects of the project? We've been kind of leading to this in the last couple of questions, but what issues did you face in managing the people aspects, and how did you address those?
Yeah, I guess there's many different ways you can address that question, but from a project level perspective, I guess, I mentioned already change management. It's all about people, right? It's always a challenge. And so, what I mentioned, bringing people in early, making them part of the process, always helps to put yourself in their shoes. And, the one question that often comes up is, what's in it for me, right? And it really it really does make a difference, right? If you're an operations person, you'd like to think that whatever you're participating in is somehow going to make your life easier, your job better to do, will achieve, outcomes that matter to you in your role. And, you never want to forget that, everybody who's participating in your project usually needs and wants to get something out of it as well. So if you're working with a diverse group of people that don't have a shared background or experience or haven't worked together in the past, it's important to have good structure. So strong project management is important. And lastly, I'll say that it's difficult to over communicate. People are busy. Don't assume that your emails are getting read. In person, proactive communication goes a long way to bring people on board.
Yeah, they often say that 75% or a similar number of project management activity is communication, and you're, I think, reinforcing that that emphasis. So I just have one more question. It's a broad question. Have you any further advice for engineers on their own involvement in digital transformation?
Yeah, it is a big question, I guess. Some of the highlights is, these are challenging, often messy projects with a lot of moving parts, people management, changing business needs and priorities. You do have to get comfortable with ambiguity. It's okay, having that willingness to adapt the project as you go. Sometimes as engineers, we tend to get, focused on a technical solution, but the real world complexity doesn't often allow for a very linear process to be had there. In order to succeed, it's really important to develop a diverse and well-rounded set of skills. Technical expertise will get you so far, but communication, change management, and other soft skills are really critical for success in digital transformation projects. And finally, perseverance, right? Everybody goes through ups and downs. I know I certainly have, but you have to have faith and stick to the plan, and good things happen.
Thank you. I think those are valuable words that the people watching this would benefit greatly from considering very carefully. So thank you, Marko. I appreciate your time. Your experience in managing change projects with the involvement of technology is very, very helpful. And I'm grateful to you for taking the time to do this.
Thanks very much. It's my pleasure.